Okay, turn this off completely. Mindfulness done. Okay, hi everyone. It is Daniel G. Taylor here, and I am the CEO and founder of Maya Marketing Agency, and I am here with Davies, who is our email conversion copywriter. And
Good
tonight
morning.
we're going to be doing. Good morning. That's right. I have him well trained because it's always morning and it's always good. And for our friends who are on the east coast of the United States at the moment, it's 8 a.m. So it definitely is. It definitely is morning, and I certainly believe in good vibes. So it is good. So okay, let's go to So
Okay.
So what I want to do is I promised Show Show and I haven't known each other for long, but he's been an absolute gun with he's churned through and turned out a bunch of really high quality whole email campaigns in a very short time, and he delivers great copy. He's Dan Kennedy, who we'll probably talk a bit about tonight, talks about having personality in your copy, and Show's copy certainly has personality. So it's been fantastic. And the other thing too, he's got a great attitude. He's very, very easy to work with. He's very humble. He's very, very appreciative, and just very. We're sharing a lot here.
I mean, I'll take the compliments. Keep them coming.
Yeah. So and the other thing, which is really important, because it's really important to know when you're hiring a copywriter, is deadlines are very important to him. Deadlines matter to him, and if he says he's going to have something to you by a certain time, he's very committed to making sure that he has that to you by that time. And it's great because it makes it really easy to work with. And he's also like a sponge. It's like he takes feedback on board, so makes changes and everything. So so he is so this is a Show, and we have a nickname for him among the team at Maya.
Yes, I actually don't even know what it is yet, so
yeah, it's like I only found out that he had a nickname
like 15-20 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were on the phone, in the prep before this, that was the first time that he found out that he actually had a nickname. And so he's like, I want to know what it is, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you until we're live, and then you can find out then. So, what is his nickname? We call him the Killer Kid. And
the Killer Kid.
The Killer Kid. We call you the Killer Kid because, and I usually hate, words like killer or gun or whatever in connection to copywriting, because it's usually so overused. But it just seems to fit you. It just seems to fit, and we're like yeah. So we're calling you the Killer Kid.
Does that mean I put out good work? Is that what that means?
It means it means you're like. Yeah, just like a hitman. You're given an assignment. You go in. You
Okay.
carry out the assignment, and you do a really good job, very thoroughly.
I'm the hitman. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here tonight to talk about email conversion, copywriting, email conversion tips and stuff. So I guess we just had a comment so that you can probably see that. You can see that, Show, by the way, the comments in the side there.
Yeah, Paul.
Paul. Paul, who's watching on Facebook, just said that it means you can kill. Like, being killer means you kill the job. And just for Show's benefit, Paul is is also on the Maya team as a copywriter. You just haven't had a chance to meet him yet.
Yeah, I'd love to hop on a call with him, check out some of his copy.
Yeah. So anyway, so in terms of the email stuff, well, let's start with obviously, the first thing in being able to write any copy, whether it's email copy or any kind of copy project, is knowing who like the ideal customer is, like the ideal customer that your client is trying to reach with the copy that you're doing. And so yeah, like talk about why that's so important, Show. Like why is that such an important thing to do?
So we have this term called custom avatar, which we build an ideal customer, ideal prospect for us, and the things that they like to do, the way their schedule, their do they go to the gym, like what social medias do they use, just everything about them. And the reason this is so important is because imagine you're like talking to you got to write copy like you're talking to a best friend, right? You know everything about this guy, like you know what sets off his emotions, right? uh, in some cases you could tick him off quite easily, but you also know the things that are meaningful to him, and you got to figure that out for your customer and put that into your copy, because you might think you know your ideal customer, but trust me, in most cases, it will completely bomb if you just shoot in the dark, because you're not your customer, right? So
Yeah.
you have to spend time actually getting to know your customers. That could mean actually almost like becoming one of your customers. So spend time where they spend time and everything. So
yeah, and I mean, this whole concept of like knowing your customer is actually something in my own email newsletter, Entrepreneur's Edge. This is something over the past month or so, I've been like every article has been about this concept of knowing your customer, because it's the crucial first step for any marketing project or any copy project. Anytime you hire a market, like anytime you hire like an SEO firm, anytime you hire an email copywriter or any kind of copywriter, anytime you hire a marketing agency or anyone to do any kind of marketing or marketing strategy or marketing consultations, if the first thing they do is not sit down with you and work out a customer avatar, work out the kind who your customer is, and make sure they understand your customer, not just the demographics but also the psychographics, like the motivations these people have, but then going even deeper than that and going into the transformation, like what's the transformation that the customer is buying when they purchase your product, because people don't buy products or services. People aren't motivated to buy products or services. People are in one state before they buy your product or service, and then they're in another state after they buy your product or service, and it's that transformation there that that's what you're actually selling. So my opinion is that if anyone involved in marketing won't sit down and do that with you first before they do any other work for you, they're wasting your time and they're wasting your money.
yeah, absolutely.
So let's say you've got your customer avatar worked out. You know who you're talking, and this is one of the things Dan Kennedy talks about is, and just for everybody, who watching who may not know who Dan Kennedy is, and I was actually really impressed that Show knew who Dan Kennedy was, but then I was even more impressed last night when he was showing me one of the books he had, and he's got a copy of Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, which is, look at that, which I accidentally, so when I bought it, he got it cheap. How much did you pay for it? It was 130?
$150. I got it directly from the publishing company instead of Amazon. So
yeah, well, I bought it from Amazon US in 2018, and I must have changed the number of copies I wanted accidentally, and it was $1,300 US per copy, and I didn't even realize that I'd done it. So I ended up with 2 copies of this book at $1,300 US. And yeah, so
seems that Paul's familiar with the book as well.
Sorry?
Paul's typed nice in the chat, so.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So yeah, but I mean, so Eugene Schwartz, by the way, we're getting sidetracked with all these other people who are like super awesome. So Eugene Schwartz, breakthrough advertising is like Paul's got the ebook. Yeah, is the ebook you've got, Paul? Is it full of errors? I did look at getting the ebook version, and the only ebook version I found was full of like spelling mistakes and typos and everything. Is that the case, Paul?
Oh yeah. Also, is there a like delay on the live stream, or is it like is there a 10-second, 15-second delay?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, but look. So you're doing Schwartz. I mean, breakthrough advertising. You know, one of the key points of breakthrough advertising. Oh yeah, he got it on Amazon. There you go.
No delay.
Oh yeah, there we
Okay.
go. Yeah. So there's no delay. So sorry. Excuse me. So one of the key takeaways from Eugene Schwartz is you can't sell to people who aren't ready to buy. And you know, one of the things Dan talks about with his copy. If when you're doing any kind of marketing piece or any kind of copy piece, you want to get inside the conversation that's going on inside of your customer's head. And for people who don't know who Dan Kennedy is the highest paid copywriter in the world. Just for context, he charges $100,000 to $250,000 per project. That's US plus royalties. And to become his client and to hire him, you're required to fly to his home office in Ohio and have a day-long consultation with him at the rate of $18,800 for the day. So that's who Dan Kennedy is, and he's personally helped more than like over 500 business owners become millionaires, multimillionaires, and yeah, so that's who Dan Kennedy is. And so when Dan Kennedy talks about this is what you should do in copywriting or any kind of marketing, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, you listen, right? Because I'm trying to make his type of income, so
yeah,
follows influence. Oh yeah, there are some books. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Yeah, if anyone is really like interested, because we were on the topic of like breakthrough advertising and books.
Yep.
I will recommend Scientific Advertising as well.
Yep.
Great Leads, which actually that's where I first heard or read about Bob Bly.
So
And
just on Great Leads, we were talking about. Is he on the cover as Michael Masterson or Mark Morgan Ford on the cover of Great Leads?
I'm not quite sure. It's been a while since I've read it, but
you haven't got it in front of you there. But anyway, so
no, this one's an ebook. So
okay, yeah. So yeah, I've got the physical copy in my library here. But Michael Masterson, who used to go by Mark Morgan Ford. Sorry, he is Mark Morgan Ford. He used to go by Michael Masterson. I'll get it right. That's one way. He changed it. He used to go by a pen name. Now he goes by his real name. He's one of the co-founders of AWAI. And Will Newman, who is the co-author of Great Leads, he was one of my teachers in several of my classes through AWAI. So and so those two wrote Great Leads. So it's interesting that you mentioned it because we were talking last night about do you know who Michael Masterson is, and you weren't too sure. You said, I think I know the name. Well, you do know the name. Tell us more about.
I suppose I do know.
Yeah, tell us more about Great Leads and more about the books and everything.
So I think I'm about 80 pages into Great Leads at the moment, so I wouldn't be able to tell you the full thing, but it's a lot like so there's this concept of the one idea, and people when advertising think, he uses this term called toss salad, which is where you list a bunch of benefits in a headline in whatever you're writing, right? List a bunch of benefits, hoping, if this one doesn't hit, this one might, the reader might like this one. But instead, you have to have, when you write into a customer, you have to focus your writing on one concept, one idea. So the hardest part about that is actually finding something that is good enough to attract and keep the retention of your reader to the point where they obviously, hopefully later on convert. But if you throw all these benefits or all these ideas at a customer, they get confused. And when especially when I'm writing emails, I like to only have one objective. So I'm not going to be selling something and then also asking someone to subscribe to an email list, because people need to be told what to do in email, right? And if you're telling them a bunch of things, like, you have to be straightforward. Like, if there's multiple things that you want someone to do, write multiple emails. Don't put it all in. Don't toss your salad in one email, right? So that's the main concept that I've taken out of a Great Lead so far.
Yeah. And that concept of the big idea, I actually learned that when I was 18, because Paul, who's watching us tonight, Paul, at the very start, Paul's responsible for me getting started, my professional writing career getting started, because he introduced me to Paul introduced me to my first, so I was writing for a community paper that didn't pay, and Paul met the editor of this magazine that did pay, and Paul talked me up to the editor and and everything, and so introduced me and stuff. So when I met the editor at an event, he knew Paul, and so I mentioned that I knew Paul, and and he's like, oh yeah, I know you because Paul told me about you. And so I got my first paid gig, and then Adam was so happy with my writing that he introduced me to they actually, the company that published the magazine also published newspapers in in Victoria and New South Wales and stuff. And so I got introduced to the editor, and then so I was publishing really, but to get me started, Paul, to be supportive, bought me a copy of the book How to Write Fast While Writing Well by David A. Frixell. It was a great book because it outlined a step-by-step process for being able to go through the entire process of writing any kind of writing project, from a article or a short story or a book, or all the way through, and being able to organize it and know how to do it in a fast way. So my housemate who's behind me there, I think he's reading Foundation's Edge at the moment by Isaac Asimov, and I think that Isaac Asimov, who was one of these fast writers, he published 492 books in his lifetime.
Oh wow!
And I believe it was Isaac Asimov who, when he was asked what he would do if he found out that he only had 6 months to live, he said, "I'd type faster." But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because in David's book, and I know Bob Bly knows David Frixell, because in one of Bob Bly's books I read recently, he was mentioning David Frixell, so he knows this book. Actually, he mentioned this book by name as well. But the idea, and Moira Allen talks about it in Starting Your Career as a Freelance Writer as well, which is, a good piece of writing, you can convey the angle or the big idea as you're talking about, you can convey it in a single sentence. If you can't reduce any sized piece of writing to a single sentence, then your thinking around the piece of writing that you're putting together is not clear enough for you to be able to go ahead and be able to write the piece, because you can't organize it, because it's not clear in your own mind. Any piece of writing that's clear can be expressed in a single sentence.
Yeah, I'm actually writing that down. Oh wow.
So yeah, so I mean, yeah, so AWAI, so AWAI is American Writers and Artists Inc. They're they're one of my clients through the Digital Copywriter, which is one of their membership sites. Like I'm a student at AWA, but they're also one of my clients now. I write articles for Digital Copywriter, which is their membership site, and I've done articles because I live with bipolar disorder. I've done an article for them on having a freelance writing career with a mental illness. So that how do you manage that? I've also, end of last year, I did, and this is going to lead into an interesting discussion as well, especially with what's happened today. But I wrote an article for them. I wrote an article for them at the end of last year, where I spoke about how to future-proof your copywriting career against AI. And because with these generative writing tools like ChatGPT, like Google Bard, and Google Bard launched in Australia today, and
what is that?
Google Bard is Google's version of ChatGPT.
Oh,
yeah. So and actually the event description for the event description for this that is in like the on LinkedIn and on for the event on LinkedIn and on YouTube and on Facebook was written by Google Bard.
This one?
Yeah, this one for this event that we're in right now was written by Google Bard. And
what about the email that got sent to me?
Well, I just cut and paste I just cut and paste the event description.
Yeah.
Which so it's the same copy for the event description on the LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube copy is the same as the copy I sent out in the email. I just used the personalization feature to so that it had people. So my subscribers to Entrepreneur's Edge and the monthly news that I do as well, which is called the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. I've got like 700 subscribers there. They got it, but they got the invite with their own name in it, because personalization matters, and we could talk about that as well. But we probably should circle back to personalization because and chat about AI for a bit, because Google Bard launched in Australia today, and one of the things I like about Google Bard compared to ChatGPT is that Google Bard uses contractions, and so it's more conversational. You were talking earlier on about writing like a best friend, and humans write with contractions, and Google Bard uses contractions. The only Spock, you're not a Star Trek. I know you're not a Star Trek fan show, but
I've never watched a single episode in my life.
No, well, you're missing out. We'll get you started, and we'll get you started. we'll get you hooked for life, and you're young enough to be able to watch them all. So but look, it's so I mean, so that's one of the cool things about Google. But yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, day before, I learned that there was a leaked memo from Google where Google has admitted defeat, that Google and OpenAI, which are is the company behind ChatGPT, that Google and ChatGPT have lost the AI race, the generative AI race. Both Google and ChatGPT have lost that race to the open source Dolly 2.0. So Dolly 2.0 is is a generative AI, which I'm still working at. Like, I've had a look at it, and it's a bit more high tech. It's not like it's not as easy to use. It looks like there's a bit of a learning curve. But I did comment on. I posted a link to the article from Search Engine Journal, which is where I learned about this leaked memo, and someone else who is an Australian AI expert, he said he agreed with my comment and the article that Google and ChatGPT have lost the battle. And of course, in terms of so anyway, what are your thoughts on AI? Because you're gonna and also let's talk about why you wouldn't use AI in email copy, or how you would use it, and talk about that, because people are going to be interested in that.
Okay, before I do want to ask what it is about Dolly 2.0 that makes it better than Google and OpenAI.
Okay, so because there's a couple of reasons. So ChatGPT, for example, is running into a lot of legal problems because the content it's producing is there are privacy issues, and there are also copyright issues because of the content that it's regurgitating. And and it's the data set it's trained on is having legal issues there. So much so that Italy have banned ChatGPT. You're not allowed to use ChatGPT in Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then you have So, and the other thing about Dolly 2.0 is the quality of answers that you get. Let's say you're having a question and answer conversation with Dolly. The quality of the answers which you're getting are much higher than you would get in Google Bard or in ChatGPT, because the people who have provided the answers on which Dolly is using, basing its content that it's generating, are like experts in their fields. So, Google Bard is just pulling from Google. ChatGPT, has its own data set that it's pulling from. But it's just general stuff like it could be like Reddit, for example. It could just be pulling a bunch of answers, like ChatGPT, Google Bard, pull a bunch of stuff from Reddit. Whereas Dolly is you might have a bunch of psychologists who have provided answers to questions and stuff, and that's what Dolly is basing its the content that it's generating from.
Yeah, I do get asked quite a lot when I go to networking events and stuff what I do think about AI as a copywriter.
Yeah.
And it could be an unpopular opinion, but I actually really like AI. Especially because, I used to write for Upwork not long ago, probably about 8 months ago now, right? And on Upwork, on Fiverr, instead of quality, you're kind of competing for price, because people just when you're just starting up and you don't have the ratings, the only way you can actually get someone to pay you to do something is to lower your price as much as you can. So I
have to finish what you're saying, and I got to tell you about Daniel Throssell, if you don't know who Daniel Throssell is.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so what I used to do is, because it'd be like $15 for a project, right?
Yep.
And I don't want to write for $15, but the extra money is nice. So what I used to do is I used to get basically just out just lower my prices more than any other competitor or whoever else was on there, and then I'd take the concept of what they want me to write, and then I put it in this AI. It was called Jasper. I don't know what it's called now, but it was called Jasper
Yes.
AI.
No,
Yeah,
it was called Jarvis, and it got changed to Jasper because Marvel, as Jasper got bigger.
oh yeah.
Because for those who don't know Marvel movies, Jarvis was the AI in like Iron Man,
Iron Man,
Tony Stark.
yeah.
So the name got changed to Jasper. Same, branding and stuff like that. Just the name change. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so I used to whenever I just needed a bit more money, right? Or maybe I was planning to go out with some mates, and so just a bit of extra pocket cash would have been nice. I would I would get a bunch of people. I'd accept. Sorry, I'm having trouble speaking. Accept some like projects, and then I just put them into Javas, and then write this whole thing out for me, and it's $15. So, and it writes really quite well,
Yeah,
and yeah, so it's $15. Like even if it was a terrible piece of copy, like you shouldn't be expecting too much. It's you're paying $15 for it, but it writes really well, so everyone was really happy with the writing. And
yeah,
I'd just pocket the like $15 per project, and then I'd just do like 10 before I go out, and then I have like $150 that I can spend on food, whatever I wanted to.
yeah,
So that's how I used it a few months back. But the thing with AI, it might start actually developing this area of well, it's not sentient, so it can't speak to someone emotionally, basically, right? So you can give someone all the logic that they want or they need, but mostly people buy with emotion, and then they just justify it with logic. But if you're just spewing all this logic out, and then it just feels it's boring to read, like it it doesn't it doesn't make you want to read further. And it's like, what
mm,
makes you different from any other like logic based writer or whatever, right? And
yeah,
I think I think what makes people decide, hey, I'm actually gonna pick this company over the competitors is how well that they are persuaded in the writing that they read. And AI just so far at the moment doesn't seem to be able to do that very well
yeah,
because they can't speak to the person directly. They AI just sources a bunch of information from the internet and then just puts it into a like uh, piece of writing, and then you can't connect with the writing. But
yeah,
it is quite nice when you have like a very long blog or something to write, and then you
uh,
can use that and then tweak, like use that as a template, and then add your own style onto it. So yeah, especially when I have like brain fog, I'd
yeah,
use that to get a bit of ideas, and then usually I'd end up changing the whole thing, but just
yeah,
getting having something there to get started is quite
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and what you've nailed there is what top copywriters and other writers that's how they're using AI
mm,
is as a getting that first draft out, getting some ideas, generating an outline. Uh, you know, David Deutsch, who's one of the top copywriters in the world, was talking about how he'll use generative AI to come up with a list of headlines, and he doesn't end up using any of those headlines, but it gets him started. It generates it gets him started. It gets him thinking, and being able to think and being able to do that is really powerful. And then Tim Ferriss, in one of his recent podcast episodes, he was interviewing someone. I'm not sure the name of the person he was interviewing, but obviously they're a writer, and this person was saying that he's the same thing. It's like he hates doing the first draft, but once he's got something down, he's able to do it. I do what there is one thing that I want to really make really clear with using AI, like generative AI copy. And you mentioned using it like in blog posts and stuff like that. Some people will use AI generated copy, and then they'll just post that to Google. Now, in terms of they think you can do that, and you're going to be able to get good SEO and all that kind of stuff. And that's not only is it nonsense, but it's actually bad. And the reason why it's bad is because in Google's webmaster guidelines, Google just says outright that artificially generated copy is spam. It's a breach of the Google webmaster guidelines. And so if you're using it for intending to use it for SEO purposes and stuff, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and it's going to harm you more than it's going to help you. Google doesn't just punish the page that the generated copy is on, it punishes the entire site and will drop the rankings for the entire site. So don't use don't use it on anything that's going on something that you want to rank in Google. Don't use artificially generated copy, but use it in the way we're talking about. And this is what Mark DeGrasse and I were talking about in a digital marketer mastermind group that we have. Mark DeGrasse is the president of Digital Marketer, and a couple of months ago we were talking about AI and how to use AI, in marketing and everything. And again, we were talking about this same concept of use it to stimulate ideas, use it to be creative. Come up with outlines, come up with potential headlines and subheadings and things just to give you ideas. I like to get a first draft down and then edit it. So being able to tell give AI a task like write a short article for this and stuff, and it's like but it's a starting point, not an end point. And some people are trying to treat it as an end point and don't do that. Now I was going to just circle back to like those gig sites, those freelance gig sites that you're talking about, like Upwork and that. So I don't know whether Elance Odesk is still around, but there used to be one called Elance Odesk, and one of my friends was he was a copywriter. He was actually the copywriter who did the marketing campaign for the book The Game by Neil Strauss, which cover your ears, show you don't need to know about this book. But you definitely don't need to know about this book. But it's called, he did the marketing campaign for that and turned that into like a massive success. Anyway, he then was like the office or regional manager, or whatever it was, for Elance Odesk. And because of this, it meant that he had to get some copy written for a LinkedIn webinar that he was doing, or course he was doing. He hired someone on Elance Odesk to write, that copy that he was, wanting, like a lead magnet that he was writing. Well, he got the copy from this guy from Elance Odesk, and it was so bad that he then had to hire me to write it.
And really?
Yeah. So he thought he was getting a bargain and of course he was, because he, worked for Elance Odesk. He had to use Elance Odesk to start with. So when that didn't work out, he hired me. Now, the other thing I got to connect. Do you know who Daniel Throssell is?
You're asking me all these names. No.
Okay, so you and Daniel are like you got to get on Daniel's email list. If you like, So Daniel is, like you, he's half Japanese. He's
Oh,
he's the world's top copywriter, and he has the absolute best. His emails the absolute best, but his initial sequence is just amazing, and it involves manga and everything like that, and like multiple choice and everything like that. You go on a real journey. It's like fantastic. But Daniel Throssell, when he was doing work through Elance Odesk, or whatever it was, Upwork or whatever it's called these days, or wherever it is, his hourly rate is listed at $999.
wow.
Yeah, so
US?
I don't know. I don't go on these sites. But yeah, so yeah.
Because it completely shocked me when you said that Dan Kennedy charges about 200 or upwards of like $200,000 US for a piece of writing, and
plus royalties.
Yeah, and I guess
Yeah.
like actually getting the meeting, which is you said 18,000, right?
18,800 US. Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, that's. But Daniel he's half Japanese,
He is half Japanese.
so I got it in my genes, right?
Yeah, so you've got it in your genes. He is like, he's actually, so Daniel Throssell did the email marketing for the best-selling money book in Australia, which is The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape. Scott Pape, I think I've got the right one. Yeah, so
I don't know.
It's in my to read pile. I haven't got to it yet. But yeah, I mean, like Daniel is behind that book's success. But you got to get on Daniel's email list. And he's great. He's got a lot of attitude. And he's a Christian guy as well. This is something that that myself and Show and Daniel Throssell have in common, is we're all Christians. So I'm not saying you have to. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to write gate copy, but hey, let's it does help,
Let's admit, God does guide my writing. So,
well, I'm just like, would you rather just hire like a regular copywriter who's a non-Christian, who doesn't have God on their side, like wanting to make them a success, or would you? See where I'm going with that line of argument?
Yeah. Barefoot Investor Scott. Wait. So Scott Pape?
Yeah, Pape. Yeah.
Yeah. This is also in my to read pile at the moment. So there's too many books.
Yeah, it's in my to read piles. I mean, there are certainly too many books. I read like 150 plus books a year.
I've been trying to get through this one for like a month.
No. Look, that one took me about a month to get through as well. It's a really challenging read. It's very, very dense. There's a lot of it's really, really heavily packed with information.
It is, yeah. So you kind of like read a chapter. Okay, write it down, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you should see
Yeah.
You should see how highlighted and marked up my copy is. I know.
I'm afraid to write on it because it's so expensive.
Yours was only $150. I spent $1,300 US.
Yeah, but you probably have like 100 times more money than I do.
Yeah, no, but look, Mortimer Adler, who is the guy who edited the Great Books of the Western World collection, he also wrote a book called How to Read. And in How to Read, he talks about the importance of owning your, owning your books and writing in them and marking them up and making them your own. And because it helps retention, the purpose of reading is to engage in a conversation with the author. It's not about just to sit passively and take in some information. And by the way, while I read like 150 plus books a year, Paul, I know, frequently reads more than that. He's like over 200 a year.
And how much of that information do you keep?
Well, so the book part. So I mean, there are a number of things, and you're going to get to write the email copy for this one once I finish creating it. But I'm going to be launching. I'm going to be launching a course soon called Secrets of a Speed Reading Ninja, and so you're going to be writing the email copy for it. So you're going to find out all these techniques. But
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I see what you did there. Ninja, because I'm Japanese. Yeah.
No. It's been called that.
No. It's a joke. It's a joke.
This project has been underway for a while, so it was a ninja for a long time. But look, and actually that name was actually suggested by the previous Elance Odes guy, who the copyrighted guy. He suggested that name, that I use that name for it. So, but the thing is, there are a number of things that you can do when you read to make sure that you retain what you're learning so much more. And one of those things is to teach what you read, to teach what you read to someone else within 48 hours. I mean, so every time you read something, you learn something, teach it to someone else within 48 hours. And so, I mean, there are multiple ways which I do this. There's the weekly email newsletter where I'm my newsletter is built around the idea of me synthesizing the books I've been reading over and presenting that information into an original article, and taking all that information and putting it in this fresh new way and doing it like that. So I'm constantly thinking and combining the information which I'm learning, so that so I'm retaining a lot more. But the other thing which I'm doing these days is, often within 24 hours and certainly 48 hours at the most, I've taken the information that I've learned in a book and I've applied it to one of my clients, like one of the agency's clients. I've applied it to one of the team members. The information that I'm getting is being put into action straight away. So I'm reading it, I'm teaching it in some form. I'm also doing it because I've got my own. I agree with Bob Bly that you need to keep your skin in the game. You get these people who, start out as copywriters like I did, and then they. I started off as an editorial writer, but then I became a copywriter. But you get these people who, start agencies or start, copywriting schools or whatever, and they stop writing copy. And I could name the name of one very popular copywriting community where the guy who heads that doesn't write any copy anymore. I believe in writing copy for clients, and I believe that you need to if you want to stay in the game. I agree with Bob Bly, who says absolutely you need to do that. And so I've got my private group of clients that I write for, and so I'm writing copy all the time still. And so I'm using it. I'm using what I learn in my own copy. I'm using it in the content which I do for publication. I'm using it in the articles that I write for, because I still write editorial stuff for publications and membership sites and magazines and newspapers still. And so I'm using it like that. And so doing that, teaching it is a really powerful way. But I'm using it myself. I'm using it in my own business. I'm just using it in every way possible. So it really helps the retention there.
No, like what you said about that. The book is called How to Read. Did you say?
It's called How to Read by Mortimer Adler. It's available on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get that because I do agree with something you said though. Like wait, after you read it or after
only something. You agree with only something I said?
Sorry. The one resonated with me. Where after you learn something, teaching it to someone else or like talking about it with someone else, there's a lot of times. So I like to talk to my mother about like the business things and stuff, she doesn't really know what I'm talking about, but she lets me talk about it, so I talk about it, right? And while I'm telling her all these things, I'm like, oh, I do know that. Like, I know more than I thought I knew. Like, and like because I try to read every day, right? And then explaining like you said what I've read in that short period of time, really it does actually solidify it into your head. So like because I um yeah yeah
Yeah.
it
So
does.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, we've kind of dovetailed. We got caught up talking about books, and we're talking about copyrighted books and everything like that, and all of these are crucial. And I also think that if you're doing any kind of copywriting or writing of any sort, that you need to be reading broadly and not just in your field. You need to be.
Mm,
I mean, the classics are foundational. There's a few books. There's only a few books that I recommend everybody read. One of those books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen R. Covey, and Stephen R. Covey's daughter, Cynthia Covey Heller. She is going to be with her dad, who passed away a few years ago now. She like they were working on one of his last books together when he died, and she like published it after he died at the end of last year. And she's actually going to be the first guest on our podcast for May Market, which is called the Entrepreneur's Book Podcast, which is
oh
very
wow,
close. Yeah, very. So she's going to be our first guest there, and I'm really looking forward to hanging out with her.
that's awesome. I'll stay
Yeah.
in tune for that one then.
Yeah. So you're going to write the email. You're going to be writing the emails for the Entrepreneurs Book Podcast site as well. So yeah,
Okay.
lots of love. So look, so the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey is one of those books that I recommend everybody read. The other books, which I've got to thank Paul, who's watching this, for introducing me to. One of the other is, well, they're 2 volumes, and these are 2 volumes from the Great Books of the Western World set, and they're called the Syntopicon. And like they're in 2 parts, and the Great Books of the Western World was a set that was published by Encyclopedia Britannica in 1954, and it's a 50. What the original edition was a 54 volume edition, and 51 of those books are the greatest thinkers who have shaped Western civilization. And the thinking behind creating this set at the time was that if you create this set, then at the time there was it was straight after the Second World War, the nuclear bomb had just been dropped on Hiroshima and everything, and so there was a real we're in the Cold War. There was a real fear of a nuclear winter, and so Mortimer Adler and I'm blanking on Robert Hutchinson. Robert Hutchinson decided to create this Great Books of the Western World set so that we would and then they wanted to get these sets into as many homes as they could, so that if we had a nuclear event, that we'd be able to rebuild Western civilization, because there'd be so many sets of these books out that some of these sets would still arrive. And these sets include Plato and Aristotle. They include Freud, Shakespeare. There's these are the people. But the Syntopicon is like a 2 volume set that is. It includes basically it's like a condensed overview. It's like a condensed version of 5,000 years of human knowledge, and so it's mind blowing. And if you want to feel stupid and feel like you don't know anything about anything, read the Syntopicon.
How do you spell it?
So
I think I've got many like ideas of. Oh, is this how I spell it? Like,
yeah,
how do you spell it? Because I do want to actually look into that one.
yeah. So as SYNTOP
Yeah. Yeah. OP. I see.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Syntopicon.
Oh, yeah, and just to be helpful so everybody else can see, Paul's written it in there for us.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like, go.
yeah. I did want to ask. Do you read a lot of like psychology books, or like
So the short answer is yes. Psychology is one of my I love psychology. I went through trauma as a child. I was, and this has led directly into me developing bipolar when I was 20. But I was sexually abused when I was when I was from the ages of 6 to 14. I was used by a teenage step uncle and a adult uncle, for adult purposes, and stuff. And so I hit my teenage years, and when I hit my teenage years, I was ready to die. I didn't want to live, and if I hadn't been invited to church 15 minutes later, I probably wouldn't have been here. So, and I'm still friends with the guy who invited me to church. Now I'm friends with his son. Both his sons, I should say. I'm actually going on a triple date with one of his sons. I'm not going on a date with the son. I'm going on a date with a woman who's, let's go. Yeah. So, but yeah, just to clarify there. But we're triple dating together. So Geordie's got a girlfriend. So Geordie's one of the sons and stuff. But anyway, yeah. So I've gone through a lot of trauma, and the other thing, apart from the mental illness, there's the other thing that's been a factor there has been that it's also contributed to like addiction and having really, really low self-worth and everything like that, and developing like addictions and stuff like that. And so the absolute best psychology book which I've read is called The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, which last year or the year before it came out in a second edition. And it's the only, it's the closest thing to a psychological panacea which I've been able to find, which means that it's something that you can use in any for any kind of situation. You can use it to deal with addiction. You can use it while someone's experiencing psychosis to be able to use ACT to talk them out of psychosis. Like that, you work with them, not just talk to them, but work with them to come out of psychosis. You can use it there. You can use it, you can use it to deal with depression. You can use it to deal with anxiety. I had a partner and used it to deal with substance addiction, but also eating disorders and stuff like that. So there's very, very useful. But wow. Yeah, so there are so many but there's some great psychology books. If you want to get like a if you want a list of psychology books to read, an introduction to 50 of the best of them. One of my friends, Tom Butler Bowden, did a series called Paul, if you can write this in the chat, I think it's called the 50 best. What's it called? Let me hang on. Let me Google his name, and I'll. So it's there we go. So he's got 50 psychology classics, and 50 psychology classics, and it will introduce you to the best of the best. And Tom is a great guy from he lives in the UK, but he's I don't know if he's from Adelaide or his wife is from Adelaide or something, but we we met in Adelaide about 10 years ago, a bit more than that, a bit more than 10 years ago. So, but I've been in touch with him just recently because we were talking about Cynthia Carvey-Hallow because of let's help get Cynthia's message and her book Live Life in Crescendo into the world. So that's So if you love psychology, if you're interested in more psychology books, that's the one to read.
Yeah. Although that was a lot of information. No, that's awesome though, because you've read so many books. So if I could just come to you for suggestions.
Yeah, well, that's but you could, yes, yeah.
Actually, one that I'm really keen to read is The Laws of Human Nature. It's a very, very big book. So
yeah. So
I'm keen to read it, but at the same time, I'm like putting it off because it's a commitment.
But by Robert Greene.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I got so many books that are just like there that it's like the ones that made it out of my wish list pile and into my room, but I haven't got to reading them yet,
So Russell Brunson, who owns ClickFunnels, and he also partners with Dan Kennedy and owns all of Dan Kennedy's assets now in terms of like the no BS like community and stuff. He actually managed to So I've just got So we're going to wrap up because it's time for us to wrap up. We're about to wrap up anyway. So as we finish with this last question, what's we got a question for Paul, which is what book might you recommend for copywriting or for marketing?
Well, I mean, I could recommend a lot of books, but I don't want to be the like, oh, of course you're gonna recommend that type, but breakthrough advertising is really like the copywriter's Bible. So there are so many in multiple other books, it refers to breakthrough advertising and the things concepts that it mentions in there. So to understand those better in the other books, like even Great Leads mentions the 5 awareness scales, and to understand that better, you need to read breakthrough advertising. So it's a hard one to understand for people who don't have a like slight knowledge in the area, but it's definitely one it's a must read. 100% breakthrough advertising.
So so we're wrapping up this. I'm just going to say if you want to find out about Shah, I'm about to drop his link, and I'll drop it on in each of the. I'll make sure it's in each of the events. But Show has you can get from a show a thing called 7 questions you must answer. Special report. 7 questions any copywriter must answer before you hire them, and you can get that for free. So I'm about to drop the link for that. But if you do that, you're also going to get to see some of Show's emails because you'll see what his writing is like from his emails that in that when you get that. And you'll see what his writing is like in the lead magnet as well. But he's awesome. But Show is also fully booked for now for the next I think it's 5 weeks. I think I checked today before I came on. So there is a wait list to use to hire Show. But certainly chat to him about that. So we're gonna finish that. Thank you, Show, for your time, and thank you everybody.
Thank you so much for inviting me.